Hello, homeschooling families. This is Janet at Covenant Homeschool Resource Center. And first of all, happy Valentine's Day. I hope you guys have been having an amazing day just like we have, eating chocolates and donuts and pizza, which we don't do that all the time. So we're a little bit hyped up right now. But I am very excited to introduce a new segment here at Covenant, and it is called Awesome Science with Karen, our amazing science teacher. And we are going to be learning about flower science, which is really a thing. So Karen, what do you have for us?
So welcome to flower science. So the question is, you get plants, you get flowers for Valentine's Day, and or you give them to somebody. So what do you do with them afterwards? So there's a number of different things that you can do with your flowers. You can hang them upside down so they can dry. You want to wrap a nice little ribbon or some kind of yarn around them, something with a little bit of texture to it so it'll stay, and then you can just hang them up and they'll dry down like that, and you'll have a nice little arrangement as well. You can keep them in your vase for a long time, and they'll last pretty long if you do a split in your stem, so you can get extra water up in there and nutrients. And then it's also just kind of interesting to see what happens to them. But you can also do some other things. You can dye them. So these were some flowers that we dyed in class. We dyed these on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and all we did was chose a color. We chose red, and I'll just demonstrate here. We added about 20 drops of just regular food coloring into the water and gave it a little swirl, and then within 24 hours they started to appear on their color, and you can see you get different grades of color with that. So that's a fun thing to do with your flowers, especially if you choose just a white flower, so you have that as something fun. And you can also do it with celery, or you could use you can add a scent to your water, not an oil, but a scent, and that will give them a little bit a different aroma. The other thing you can do is you can press flowers. So there's some different little techniques to consider when you press a flower. So obviously this is too thick to put between paper. You've got the stem coming out, so you want to do you just want to take out some of those petals. So just any kind of knife or scissors will work. Just give it a little slice, and you can just pull out some of these petals here, and you get just these beautiful pink petals. If they don't come out easily, you can just give them a little snip right to close to where they're centered at, where they're attached, and you have these really pretty petals. You can leave them as is and they'll dry, kind of like a potpourri, or you can put them in a little bit of paper, and I'll show you an easy way to do that. So sometimes, and then you can also choose like a Astromeria, which are these little guys here. They're really popular in your regular grocery store floral bouquets. They're not nearly as thick, and again, you can also press the leaf, and you can just pull off your petals, or just give them a little snip. And then you can open these up, and you have all your flower parts there. And it's an awesome science lesson to learn with the flower parts. So you got the male and female flower parts, and where all the pollen attaches. And you can put those under your stereo microscopes, which you can pick up from a little commercial advertisement here from LGS Microscopes. Is a homeschool microscope company, and they have these beautiful stereoscopes that you can use to look at your flowers with. So when you press them, there's a couple little tricks. So these are some blossoms that I pressed last week, and then also yesterday. So this doesn't look like anything fancy at all, does it? It's just some catalogs that are glossy pages. We'll learn about those later. And then ye old phone book. And all I did was I put some just paper in there. This is just phone book that came on the door the other day. And these are from bushes right outside Covenant, so you can see when you get both sides of them, how you get different color variations from the top and the bottom side. This is a flower that I pressed years ago from my youngest son's wedding, that it was just, she had beautiful flowers in the arrangement, so I saved one of them and pressed. And then these are blossoms from Astromerias that we had for a family dinner last week. And as you can see on white paper, they don't show up well, but if you put them on a brighter paper, they'll give a little bit more life to it. Like on this sheet, they'll have a little bit more life when you go to mount them. Gives it a little bit more texture, I guess, if you would. And then these are ones that we pulled from the hydrangeas that we are using as our examples. These really pretty pink blossoms. And as you can see, I even used paper that had text on it from one of my science classes. And you can just kind of stack them up. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. You can put them on paper towels. Sometimes you do get a little bleed of the color. But the main thing is to have, if you press your flowers or your leaves, your blossoms, to have it on a breathable paper. Something like you would use your computer paper. So anything like this, cardboard, paper towel, regular paper, is all good for pressing. So these things are yeses. These are good for pressing your flowers with, all right? This is no. So these are not good choices because your catalogs have a slick finish to it, and what will happen is your petals and your leaves will rot. Wax paper, no. And some people think that you can even iron them. I've had students do this trying to get their assignments done quickly. Ironing, no. Bad choices for pressing flowers. So you want to just give yourself a week or so with the pressing and let them dry out before you mount them on anything. Some things you can just air dry. So these are some things that thanks Janet, that I just air dried. This was some birch bark I pulled from Minnesota when we were taking down a tree. I have made bookmarks out of it. And then these are leaves that were just dried naturally. One of my daughters got these in Florida. So she did have them pressed, but then when she took them out, they kind of puffed up. So this one's beautiful because as you can see, it has a lot of dimension to it. But the risk is then it's, kind of fragile. And depending on the time of year, you might get some coloration in there from the seasonal changes. So you don't have to press just something small. You could press something large as well. One of the things that we've done is for the 5th and 6th graders, when we were studying flowers, after they dried, they put their flowers just on a little notebook page, and then we put them in a plastic sleeve after they were dried. You can try to identify some of the parts, or you could just make a nice little arrangement. Either way. And we mounted them using the real clear tape, the transparent tape. And that made it for a nice little project for the 5th and 6th graders. Another thing you can do with leaves is you can turn it into a leaf collection. So this was one of my previous students' leaf collection that was meant different categories for the assignment. But again, they were dried before they were mounted in here. Otherwise, they will bleed out. And it's a really nice way for you to do a study of leaves in an area that you're visiting or your home, just so you get some different ideas of things. And it's just something you can have forever as long as you've mounted them properly. Another thing you can do is you can take your leaves or your petals. And so this was an art project that my girls did when they were in junior high from our art teacher, Kathy Bergman, a good friend of mine. And they took, first in art, they studied the flowers, they did different compositions of them, and they drew them, and then they made potpourri, and then then they also made their own paper, and from the potpourri and paper, they mounted those together, and they made these beautiful little paper samples. So this was from my daughter Bethany, and then later I took some of the high school girls on a trip, and these were some of the orchids from the trip. And as a gift, the the girls put those together for me as just a little memory of all their flowers and excursions and just kind of the beauty of it. It's one of my favorite things. The other thing you can do too is you can do this with leaves as well. It doesn't have to be just flowers, but I worked in Sweden for a while and had collected some leaves, and one of my daughters stole them out of my Bible. But what I didn't know is that she was making me this awesome picture. So she took all these leaves that I collected in Sweden and put them together for me as a little memory sake from my time when I worked overseas. So those are just some things you can do with your flowers. You can enjoy the beauty of them short term, long term, by having them last, for a long time. And you can do different things with the scents, things like that. The last thing I have is a little art project, and we have these kits here at Covenant. They're just they're very simple to do. This is the end result. It turns into a little coaster. Let me put paper behind it so you can get a better view that way. So what we have is these pressed flowers, and these are ones from our demonstration today. And then all you have is, I'll break the kit apart a little bit for you. You have the clear acrylic, which is wrapped in blue for protection, and then we've preserved a leaf and blossom choices for you, or you could make your own. And the directions, and then there's the foil wrap for the sides and 4 little feet. And we have a few of these for sale for $3 each if you're interested in making a little coaster for yourself or for a friend. And that's what we have kind of as a little wrap up for the flower lesson. So, and plants are also handy because you can use plants, like rice, to dredge your cell phone after you spill coffee all over it. So, plants are useful in lots of different ways. So I think that's what we have here for our flowers. So we hope you enjoy your flowers over the holiday. And then there's Janet shamelessly promoting one of our little digestive aprons, which goes with all the donuts and everything we've consumed today.
Yes, totally. So thank you, Karen, for sharing this with us. And this is an amazing project. And
it's a nice project.
This one doesn't make you messy, but if you're making a project where you get messy like I tend to do, I mean, look at my hands, I'm full of ink. Anyway, and I haven't even done an art project today. So this is perfect. We still have 7 left. Last time we put it on Facebook Live, moms were calling and going crazy. We ran out, but we got a few more, and we have 7 left. So thank you, everybody, and have a very wonderful rest.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, that's right.
So,
bye.
Bye.
And happy birthday, Arizona.
Happy birthday, Arizona.
Go 48.